Today we're going to learn how to revise an essay. But before we get started, let's review the essay format and the writing process. An essay is a short piece of writing about a specific topic. And as we've already learned, an essay has three parts. There's an introduction, which gets the reader's attention, connects the reader to the topic, and states the main point of the essay. Then there's a body, which are paragraphs that explain the main point. And finally, you have a conclusion. And your conclusion restates your main point, summarizes your main ideas, and ends creatively. In an essay, all ideas are logically organized, and these ideas in paragraphs are connected by transitions. Let's also take a minute just to review the writing process to remember where in the writing process revising occurs. The writing process is made up of 5 steps. The first step is pre-writing, in which you generate ideas. Then you have drafting, where you take these ideas and you write them into sentences and paragraphs. And then you revise. And remember, revising is only checking over your content, not looking for your mistakes. That's the 4th step, editing. And then finally, you have the last step, which is publishing and presenting your final copy. We're going to use the FACT approach to revise an essay. FACT stands for Fit, Add, Cut, and Test. This is a very simple way to remember what you should look for when revising. So in the FACT approach, F stands for Fit. When revising an essay, you want to look at your essay and ask yourself if everything fits. Is it all relevant, or is any of it off topic? Anything that isn't relevant needs to be removed. Normally, we would look at an entire essay to show how to revise, but for the sake of time and to make this easier for you to see, we're going to look at an essay outline instead. So here's my essay outline, and my introduction says that my main point is tips to nail a job interview and get a job. So if that's my main point, everything else in this outline needs to be relevant to that. Everything should be a tip on how to nail a job interview. Then I list the 3 main ideas I plan on discussing. The first one is to write cover letters and resumes, and I'm going to specifically talk about showcasing your qualification and using terms from the job ad in your resume and cover letter. My next main point on how to nail a job interview and get a job is to prepare interview questions ahead of time. And specifically, I'm going to talk about the types of questions that are usually asked and that you should practice with a friend and practice with a family member. Then my last main idea is to know about the company. I'm going to suggest that you research the company and show how you will be a good fit and that you should charm the receptionist. And then finally, I will state my conclusion. When I'm looking at F for fit in the FACT approach, I need to make sure that everything is relevant. So is there anything in this outline that isn't relevant to the main point of tips to nail a job interview and get a job? Well, there is. Writing good cover letters and resumes will help you get a job, but it's not about doing well in the interview. So that part isn't relevant. Also, charming the receptionist isn't relevant to tips to a job interview either, nor is it relevant to the main topic I had it under of knowing about the company. So I'm going to get rid of those. The next thing to look at in the FACT approach for revision is A for add. When looking at your essay, ask yourself, is my writing clear? Does it need more details? And did I include everything I meant to? So let's go back to our outline, and I've deleted the things that we took out that weren't relevant when we looked at fit. And now I need to look at, is there anything where I need to put in more details that might not be clear? And I've identified 2 parts. One is the type of questions that are usually asked, and the other is researching the company. These are really good ideas, but I think that I need to give more details about them to help my reader really understand what I mean by these 2 things. So, under types of questions that are usually asked, I can explain that some questions are about credentials, some are about experience, and some are about behavior. And when I talk about researching the company, I should probably explain how to do that. So I'm going to add the details to look at the company's website, to see if there are any news stories about the company, and to check out the company's competitors. Then I'm going to move on to C. In the FACT approach to revising, C is for cut. You need to ask yourself if you repeated anything, if you have any clutter, and if there's anything that isn't really necessary. If you have any of those things in your essay, you need to remove them. So here's my revised outline, and I'm looking for anything that is repetitive, clutter, or unnecessary. And I do see one thing. Underneath my detail about preparing interview questions ahead of time, I have to practice with a friend and practice interview questions with a family member. Practicing interview questions is a great piece of advice, but it's repetitive to list practicing with friends or practice with a family member twice. So I can remove that. The last thing to look for in the FACT approach is T for test. Here you want to test your order. Does it make sense, and do you need to add any transitions? So looking back at my now further revised outline, I have my introduction, then to prepare interview questions ahead of time, then to know about the company, and finally a conclusion. I think it might make more sense to switch the order of my two main ideas. Knowing about the company might help me figure out what types of questions they're going to ask. So I'm going to flip those around. And that is how you can apply the FACT approach to revising an essay. Remember to look at fit, things you can fit, add, cut, and test. And then that will help you have an essay where everything is relevant, you don't have any clutter, nothing's repeated, all of your details are fully fleshed out, and your organization makes sense.